Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check,
Mic check, mic check,
All right, so we got sound.
mic check.
Okay, Shalawama, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Please like the video, share it, let other people know. I'm a little bit early, so we're going to give it a minute before we get started. Let everybody know that we are going to get started right now. Just a reminder to subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. This is how to reclaim your heritage. This is how to reclaim your heritage. Excuse me. By subscribing to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. All right. So reclaim your heritage. Why is Ibaryath important? Again, we'll go to Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8 really quickly here. We'll look at the Amplified Bible version. And again, we read, how can you say we are wise? Wisdom is the proper application of knowledge, and that the law of the Most High is with us, and we are learned in its language. What language? The language that the law is written in. What language is the law written in? Ibaryath, not modern Hebrew, not biblical Hebrew. Ibaryath is the original language and its teachings. What are the teachings? The law, the Most High's instructions. What were they initially written in? Ibaryath. So we need to know this in order to be able to apply knowledge of the law properly, right? Wisdom is the proper, appropriate, proper application of knowledge, okay? So that's why we need to know the grammar. We need to know the linguistics, all right? We need to know all of that stuff that we always talk about. Etymology, parts of speech, so on and so forth. Jeremiah continued with the warning, behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes have made the law into a lie, a mere code of ceremonial observances. They made it into religion, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. And how do we know that? Because we are applying knowledge properly by going and learning Ibaryath so that we can use linguistics, etymology, grammar, parts of speech, all of these things to flush out and identify these lies, all right, so that we can carefully follow the Most High's instructions. All right, so I'm done with that. Now let's go get our PDF. We'll get that queued up. So be sure to order that for yourself. That's something that you should really do for yourself and for your children, your husband, your wife, so on and so forth. That's really something that we all need to have it in our house. Whether we use it or not, we need to have it. All right, so let's give it a minute. Give people a chance to come in. It's 7:35. All right, 7:35. Let's give it a minute. And then we will get started. Let's give it 1 second and we will get started. All right. So we have sound. We still have sound. Okay, yeah, we still got sound. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We are on page 87 of the Devil's Pulpit. Okay, this is written by, this is a compilation of many sermons that were given by Robert Taylor. Robert Taylor. These sermons were given in the early 1800s. Maybe the teens, the 20s, and the 30s, something like that. And then they were published. They were published in 1857. They were compiled and published in 1857. The author exposed the secret society's big secret, which, according to the author, is that the Gospels are astrotheology or astrology, that the Christ figure is the sun, as the sun moves throughout each of the 12 zodiac signs, okay, in the celestial sphere called the heavens. So he revealed the secret, and he also began to teach people the linguistics, identifying specific verses and words that, according to the author, proves beyond a reasonable doubt that the Christ figure is in fact the sun, and the Gospels are nothing more than sun worship, okay? And that the New Testament is nothing more than a narrative, a story describing cosmology, the constellations in the sky and their movements, and the sun's tracking through each zodiac. This is what Christianity is, according to the Reverend Robert Taylor, who is the author. So what am I doing? I am reading the book, interpreting each sentence, each paragraph, each chapter, because this is a hard read. This is not an easy read because the English is so old, right? The English is so old that it's a tough read. Y'all will see as we go through it. It's a really tough read. So I read and I interpret, and then I comment. I comment where I think it's appropriate, but I'm not giving, I'm not telling anybody what to believe or what to think, and I'm certainly not telling anybody to leave your religion. Okay, that's not what I do. And that's not what Zion Law School is about. So if you're interested in hearing the reading of this book, me interpreting it, you putting your interpretation in the comments, I'll be running the comments across the screen so that you can be involved. You asking questions, you answering questions, and you'll be able to see them on the screen. I'll also read them out. And then you can also participate, and we'll learn here now during the live presentation, and then in the future, or maybe even tomorrow when other people learn, or when other people go through this book, they watch this video, they're gonna learn. So you can contribute to helping to educate our people. Really, all of our people need to know this information. We really all need to know it. So let me take a look, and let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get started with the book. Here we go. All right, so we are on page 87. And we are here at the highlight. All right, we're the highlight. And it reads, "But look now at the allegorical joys and sorrows, desires and fears of the astronomical David of the Old Testament, and the no less astronomical son of David of the New," says he in the 27th incantation. That's the 22nd Psalm. 22nd Psalm. Now, the author, several pages earlier in the book, said that the whole book of the Psalms are celestial. It's all about astrology. This is according to the author, okay? But he didn't make the point, he said it. So this is the second time he mentioned the incantations. Okay, so now let's go ahead and read what the 22nd incantation reads. Also, the author said something interesting, that the Psalms are to be read out loud. That's why he's calling them incantations. They're supposed to be read, I think he said, every 30 days, or I don't remember, but go back and look into it. It may have some significance. But right now, I don't recall any. I'm not aware of any, but let's go through it. All right. So here we are, fat, right here. Quote, "Fat bulls of Bashan close me. Fat bulls of Bashan close me in on every side," end quote. Why? There they are in the Taurus of April, in which every year the sun is literally enclosed, says he in the spell of Matthew. So that's a question. Says he in the spell of Matthew, quote, suffer the little children to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven, end quote. So that's the Christ figure talking. Why, there they are in the Gemini, or twins of May, where you shall see them, lords of the ascendant, every year at that point of the time. All right, so let's read the quote here. From opening fields of ether wide displayed, child of the sun, refulgent summer comes. All right. Okay, so now let's see if there's anything interesting in this paragraph other than fat bulls of Bashan close me in on every side. And Taurus, right? Why? There they are in the Taurus of April. So these fat bulls of Bashan, this is the Taurus bull of April. Okay, and it goes on to say, in which every year the sun is literally enclosed. All right, so the sun is literally enclosed in April. We have to see if he can develop this. I was not able to find any pictures of that. So let's continue. Maybe in the future I can find something, but for right now, I don't have anything. Next paragraph. Or cries he again in the 22nd Psalm, O save me from the lion's mouth, thou that hast heard me, also from among the horns of the unicorns, end quote. Why? There never were such animals as unicorns upon the earth, except in a little baby song, and the big babies babble. Quote, the lion and the unicorn, a fighting for the crown. The lion beat the unicorn and drove him round the town, end quote. All right, so yes, so there's no unicorn. All right, there is no unicorn. So let's continue reading. But here, sirs, is the very astronomical crisis to the accuracy of the setting of a watch, of the allegorical adaptations of that incantation. Okay, so this psalm, the 22nd Psalm, he's saying is an allegorical story. It never happened in real life. It's a fairy tale. That's what he's saying. All right. Now he says again, it has an astronomical meaning. Okay. And he's calling this meaning a crisis. But here, sirs, is the very astronomical crisis to the accuracy of the setting of a watch. So Psalms 22 has something to do with either time or a movement that can be measured, right? We know that because he's comparing it to the accuracy of a setting of a watch, okay? Of the allegorical adaptation, that incantation where you see the sun by rising up into the arms of those little children, just contrives to make his escape from the horns of the unicorns. Okay, those two children would be Gemini, right? And has now to look out for the next forthcoming danger and must make a dip to the nicety of a hair's breadth to keep clear of the lion's mouth. Okay, so they're trying to stay away from that lion. And quote, oh, deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog. Oh, make thy way straight before me, end quote. Let me not be attracted from my course by the power of the dog. In the south, when he rises helically with me in the summer, nor let me be worried by them in the long nights of winter, when in the evening they will return, grin like a dog, and go about in the city. So that's quoting from Psalms 59. So he's talking about the movement. It appears of some star or constellation. Let's continue reading to see what he says. All right, it continues. Oh, hold on, I have to turn the page. Give me a second, y'all. All right, he continues. Resist the astronomical demonstration, if you possibly can, of that mystical lament of the allegorical Jonah in the whale's belly. All right, so now we're getting somewhere. Jonah in the whale's belly, which your ignorant clergy, for any sense that they could ever find of it, are not able to protect from the laughter and scorn of all rational men, but which rises into grandeur and astonishing wisdom and truth when read to its astronomical significancy. I went down to the bottom of the mountains. The earth with her bars was about me. Forever, then said I am cast out of thy sight, yet will I look again toward thy holy temple. That's the end of the quote. Which with severer literality of translation gives us the truly magnificent language of the sun. All right, so now the star is the sun in his state of humiliation. Okay, the sun in his state of humiliation, struggling to ascend in the ecliptic. All right, so that must mean the sun is somewhere around the winter solstice, right? Quote, I went down to the bottom of the mountains, repeatedly called the depths of Satan. The earth with her everlasting bands and colors was above me. Then I said, I have sunk below the line of the zodiacal constellations, those eyes of heaven. Yet will I emerge again toward the holy temple, which is here in the constellation of the Ram. So keep that in mind, scholars. Holy temple in the constellation of the Ram. And just exactly is it 3 days and 3 nights? Okay, so now we're seeing what he was talking about on the last page when he said the accuracy of a time watch, right? Or whatever the phrase was, he said the accuracy of a watch, right? So now let's continue. That's what he was talking about, these 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights. So let me go back and read it again. Yet I will emerge again toward the holy temple, which is here in the constellation of the Ram. And just exactly is it 3 days and 3 nights to the accuracy of the setting of your watch. That is from 12 o'clock at midnight of St. Thomas's Day, that the Jonah of the Old Testament is in the whale's belly. Okay, so correlate the whale with Cetus, right? With Cetus, I guess this is where he's going. Let's continue. All right, and the Son of Man, that's the S-O-N of the New Testament, is in the heart of the earth. That is, the sun is in the lowest degree of his descent. So that would be the winter solstice. Remember, scholars? That's the winter solstice. The sun is at its lowest point on the celestial globe. That's December 21st, December 22nd. All right. And then on the 25th of December, the sun begins to rise again. All right. Okay. So that is that the sun is at the lowest degree of his descent in the curve of the ecliptic. And we see the Greek verse, the verse written here in Greek. And it continues, that being the exact term of the winter solstice. So do y'all see that? Winter solstice is 3 days, 3 days, 3 nights, excuse me. Winter solstice is 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. The Christ story copy the story from Jonah. This is how I'm reading this, or this is my impression. And so therefore the Christ was in the earth 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, so now the meaning according to the author is astrological. because the sun, or Satan, the devil, is in the belly that's at the bottom, the lowest part of the celestial globe, for 3 days and 3 nights, right? That's the point he's trying to make. That being the exact term, that 3 days and 3 nights, of the winter solstice, or of the suns, S-U-N, of the suns seeming to be at a standstill. So he's saying that the sun seems to be at a standstill because on December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point. 22nd, it's at its lowest point, right? Okay, 23rd, 24th, it also appears to be at its lowest point, but it's visibly rising. It can be seen visibly rising on December 25th. That's what he's talking about by the sun seeming to stand still. All right. So it's standing still in the winter solstice for about 3 days and 3 nights. That's what the author is saying. Let's continue reading. From which point, so we are here. We're there. All right. Hold on. From which point, gaining his first degree on the first moment of December 25th at midnight. Okay, so it gains the first degree. So it has to travel a distance to gain 1 degree, right? So it looks like it's standing still, although it's moving, but you can see that 1 degree of movement at 12 midnight, December 25th. That's what the author is saying. All right. At midnight, at the very moment when the star in the east, the brilliant of the constellation of the Virgin, is seen rising on the eastern border of the horizon. The whole pagan world did, through countless ages, rise at midnight to let in Christmas, and sang that well-known Christmas carol, quote, "A virgin unspotted, by prophets foretold, brought forth her child Jesus, which now you behold. For to be our Redeemer from death, hell, and sin, which Adam's transgression involved us in." So now let's take a look at this a little bit further. So we saw the virgin, that's Virgo, right? The baby child Jesus was born in the manger, in the stalls. So we're going to look at this again just for a second, okay? Which now you behold, for to be our Redeemer. So the sun, remember, in the winter solstice, looks like it's gone, okay? So what's at that point? Death, hell, and sin, all right? Okay, so now let's continue. Let's continue. Because what does winter bring? It brings death, right? And if y'all recall, I believe the author said sin astronomically means unevenness, if I'm correct. Unevenness. In other words, the hours of daylight are not equal to the hours of nighttime. Okay, daylight and nighttime hours are unequal. All right, but go back and watch past videos or read back so you can know for yourself. So now what we're going to start to get into is Adam. What does it mean by Adam? Adam's transgression. So next paragraph. Let's continue. I'll check the chat in a few minutes, maybe after we get through this page or 1 or 2 paragraphs or so. I'll check the chat. By the way, those of you who are this is your first time with us, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Thanks for coming in to check us out. This is some really, really fun and interesting material. It might be hard for a lot of people to deal with because it's going to challenge your beliefs. It's going to definitely challenge what you've been taught in the past about the Gospels. But it's fun and it will make you think, okay, and give you something to talk about too with other people. All right, so now let's continue. And who the devil was Adam, A-D-A-M, who the devil was Adam, that any transgression of his should get us in such a damnation scrape. Why? Who? but whom the name itself literally signifies. So now we're looking at two radicals or two roots, right? Ad and am. AD hyphen AM. Ad am. Adam. Now let's take a look at this. Adam. The capital LORD, the fire. That's a question. He's asking, is the root AD and the next root AM the capital LORD? So that would be the tetragrammaton. We already know that the tetragrammaton is the fire. So the author is asking us this question, right? So now let's see where he's going to go with this. Quote, that is the sun himself. That's the SUN. So is Adam the capital LORD, the fire? What fire? What capital LORD? The sun, SUN rather. Who has been? All right, end of quote. Transgression, the sun that has been transgressing for the last 3 months, most horribly. So y'all understand that? He's saying the sun has been going down for the last 3 months. So we would count from December backwards, right? December, November, October, September. That's what he's saying. That is the sun himself who has been transgressing for the last 3 months most horribly, sinking lower and lower into inequity or unevenness. So there we go. Inequity, unevenness. So that would be your sin, right? Unequal number of hours of daytime and nighttime. And giving us such miserable days that if he does not mend his manners and begin the lengthening of his days again, it will be all hell and St. Thomas with us. So in other words, the transgression is more nighttime hours. It's getting cold and life is getting hard. That's what they're saying, right? That's what the author means. So let's go to our next paragraph. Hence, the apostles' riddle about the first and second Adam. Now, this is very interesting. So everybody focus in on this, okay? Because this is something that I'm pretty sure 99.9% of the people have never heard this. So let's focus in on this highlighted paragraph, okay? Now let's take a look at it. Hence the apostles' riddle about the first and second Adam. Both meaning one and the self-same personification of the Son. So according to the author, the first Adam is the personification of the Son. In other words, the first Adam is a metaphor for the Son, and the second Adam is a metaphor for the Son. This is what the author is telling us. He continues, the first, that is the first Adam, or falling Adam, that would be Adam in Genesis, right? The first or falling Adam being the Son, descending in his elliptic, okay, so this descending in its elliptic. So remember, the celestial globe is a circle. Remember, we can look at it like a circle clock, okay? So that first Adam is when the sun starts to go down, okay? It's going down. All right, the first or falling Adam being the sun, descending in the ecliptic and shortening the days. So when is this happening? Remember, at the zenith, which is the sun at its highest point, that would be 12 o'clock. The sun would be at its highest point over the earth, right? Highest point in the celestial heavens. That would be, I think it was June 25th, June 21st. I believe it's June 21st. Check the other videos, but I believe if my memory serves me correctly, the summer solstice is June 21st, and the sun is at 12 o'clock at its highest point in the sky. And since it's at its highest point in the sky, it has nowhere to go but what? But down. it goes down. And as the sun goes down, the number of daylight hours decrease, causing the number of nighttime hours to increase. Thus, you have fall, which things start dying, and then wintertime, everything is going to be dead, right? Frozen, miserable, right? It's cold, hard to survive. Things die in winter. This is what he's talking about. That's the first Adam. All right. Let's continue. It says, and the second, there we go. And the second Adam, or rising Adam, being the sun ascending again, lengthening the days, and cheering our desponding hearts with the promise of an annual salvation. So at December, between December 21st or 22nd, right, the sun gets to its lowest point, right? On the 24th, it starts to move. There's only 1 degree that it needs to move, right? And then on December 25th at 12 midnight, the sun makes that visible 1 degree move, upward or ascension. Okay, and now the sun is rising again, and the number of daylight hours begin to increase. Okay, all the way up until spring, right? The vernal equinox. All right, the vernal equinox. All right, so this is what he's talking about. So in spring, remember what's happening. In spring, we get the rain. Okay, we get the rain, which is John the Baptist, the water bearer, right? Aquarius, the water coming. And then the flowers begin to grow. Everything begins to grow and become green again. So this is the salvation. This is the salvation that the author is talking about. So now let's continue. Assured though horrors round our mansions reign, that spring will come and nature smile again. And thus the sun, the sun, returning annually to his first degree of ascension on Christmas Day. Y'all see that? That's December 25th. Recalls the departed soul of Lazarus. Oh, so okay. So now let's focus on this. Lazarus was resurrected, right? So now he's going to give us an astronomical explanation of the story about Lazarus. Let's start from the top. And thus the sun, returning annually to his first degree of ascension on Christmas Day, that's December 25th, recalls the departed soul of Lazarus. Okay, so Lazarus, come on out. That's what he's saying by recalls. See, and thus the sun, sun, but it was the sun, son, that called Lazarus to come out. Y'all see that? Recalls the departed soul of Lazarus, whom he loved, who? The Christ figure. Whom he loved, and then he has, I don't understand why the year. Oh, he loved the year. Okay. Whom he loved, who has been in a galloping consumption for a long while, though, as he expressly tells you, this sickness is not unto death. So it appears to me that while Lazarus was in his death state, that's being equated to the sun, or let's just say winter, right? Winter. Everything that dies and goes wrong in winter. Consider that to be death, and then spring, resurrection. This is the way I'm understanding it. If y'all have something different in mind, put it in the chat. As a matter of fact, let me check the chat now. I'm going to go to the next page. Let me check the chat. If you have anything you want to add to this, put it in the chat. Now go ahead and put it on the screen. So give me 1 second. Let me get this together. All right. Let me get it together. Let me get the chat going. The comments, rather. Let me get the comments going. All right. Roderick's point of view. Shalawama, Shalawama, good to see you. Gary James, Shalawama, good to see you. It's the same cycle, just using different names or different attributes. That is exactly right. Excellent, Gary James. Excellent, excellent. Thanks for that feedback. Definitely. That's what's happening. Same cycle being expressed through different stories, different characters. All right. Now, anybody else have anything in the comments? Go ahead and put it in there, and I can show it on the screen. So give me 1 second. Here we are. What is this one? Okay. Yes, June 21st is known as the first day of summer. All right. Universal message. Thanks for that. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. All right. Let me know anything else. I'll put it on the screen. If y'all want, put a 1 in the chat if you want, in the comment section rather. If you want to call in, you can call in and you can talk. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to do that. You're more than welcome to do it. As a matter of fact, yeah, just put a 1 in the chat, right? And if I see the 1, I'll go ahead and give y'all my number, and y'all can call in and you can speak and be heard in the video. Okay, so just let me know what you want to do. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to call in. All right, so give me 1 second. Let me find my place. And by the way, you know what I would really like for you all to do? If y'all know any Hebrew Israelite leaders, you know, like a general or the head of any of the camps, or a pastor, a head of a church, a Moshe, a head of any of the Hebrew Israelite assemblies, what have you, ask them questions about what we are presenting in this book, and ask them or demand them to give you an answer, a real answer. Demand that they give you a real answer. And let's just see what happens. You know, let's see if one of them are willing to even come on here, right? And they can participate. They can give their point of view, you know, and it'll be really, really good for our people, because hearing their point of view and hearing what the author says is going to help people to make a decision, right? Because they have more information. And that would be a very, very powerful thing if they would be willing to, even if they're just participating in the comment section, right? Like Apostle was courageous enough to come in. I have to give it to him. He was courageous enough to come in and give his viewpoint. So that type of commentary would be helpful for a lot of people, because I'm getting the feeling that the people who are here are people who are well educated and informed. That's my impression from the chats that I read. So I think if we could do some things together. Gary James says, that's why I said previously that there's nothing outside of the oneness of the Creator. Further, I say that these cycles are the Creator knowing itself. Well, it certainly makes sense. You know, it certainly makes sense, right? I mean, I agree with you on that. Certainly makes sense. But we need to get this information to our people. At least that's my point of view. I follow natural law as it is presented in the commandments, right? I also follow the contract. So from my point of view, we have to return to the Most High's commandments or his instructions, which are at their essence following natural law, not some religious stuff. So if you can understand that, or if you agree with it, or at least you can accept it, reach out to some of these mores, pastors, whoever you know, or even just people, and ask them, say, hey, ask your pastor, ask your reverend, whatever they are, about these videos. Watch these videos and ask them and demand that they give you a competent answer, and invite them. Let's see what happens. Maybe we can have some really, really big things happen in our comments, or maybe they can even call in. Anyway, let's get back to the book. We are on page 88. Let me make sure I'm where I need to be. All right. Give me 1 second. Are we on page 88? Or page 90? All right. So give me 1 second. All right. So I hope y'all agree with me. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. I hope you would be willing to work with me, even though you don't disagree with me, right? That's what men do. We work together, even though we might not agree with each other. All right, so we're on page 90 of the Devil's Pulpit. It reads, hence the sun, S-U-N, speaks that sublimely allegorical and most correctly astronomical language. Allegorical and astronomical language. Quote, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Powerful, powerful. So what do y'all agree with the author that this famous Bible quote of the Christ figure of the New Testament about the resurrection is nothing more than the winter solstice and the summer solstice? Summer solstice being the Christ, winter solstice being Satan the devil? Is this Bible verse itself, I am the resurrection and the life? He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die? What is a Christian or Hebrew Israelite believing in the Gospels to say about this, right? What are they to say? How do they reconcile this information, right? They should at least be aware, at least they can think it over and figure something out, right? Okay, so Gary James says, okay, so yeah, I got that on the screen. All right. All right. So in my opinion, that would be some information I would want to know if I was into the New Testament. But again, I'm not trying to persuade or convince anybody of anything. I want the information to get into people's ears so that they can become educated and make a decision. All right. Excuse me. Gary James says, of course, it's the sun cycle, year in, year out. That's right, forever. Forever. All right, so let's continue to the next paragraph. Thus, the sun, S-U-N, pledges to us, not the foolish dream of the immortality of man. Now, this is something that people have a big problem with, right? People have this huge problem with the issue of death, right? Immortality, going to heaven, so on and so forth. People have a real big problem with this, afraid of it. Okay, or they spend a lot of time thinking about it. What's going to happen at death? That's a big issue, right? So let's continue. Thus, the sun, S-U-N, pledges to us not the foolish dream of immortality of man, but the philosophical truth of the eternity of nature. Now, here's the thing. Speaking as a learned man, as a scientist, I know that what's real is what I can observe with my senses. That's what's real, what I can observe with my senses, okay? And what's not real are those things that are outside of what I can observe with my senses. In other words, they're outside of reality, right? So as a scientific man, It baffles me. It really baffles me how people can just ignore nature, because we're all living our lives in harmony with nature. And when we fall out of that, we have problems. That's why there's so many problematic people, right? So many people who have problems today because they're living a lifestyle that's inconsistent with nature, and they're going to pay for it, right? They're going to pay for it. Bad health, early death, unhappiness, right? Poverty, okay? That's what happens when you go against nature. Okay, so let's continue. And so exactly is the astronomical truth observed, that it is just exactly, nay, to the moment when Lazarus has been 4 days dead, and we see the Greek phrase there, that is, hath the fourth day, that is, when the year has stood at the winter solstice, during which Jesus, that is the Son, S-U-N, abode till the same place where he was. That on the morning of Christmas Day, he annually cries, and we see the Greek, we see that cry written in Greek, Lazarus, come forth. And Lazarus, that is the genius of Christmas Day, does come forth shivering, freezing, deadly cold, so as just to say there was a dark, so as just to say that there was a spark of life in him. But that was all. Quote, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face wrapped up in a towel, precisely as the dressers of a pantomime would send you up the character of Jack the Frost. Okay, so Jack Frost would cover his face with a scarf, right? Because it's cold in the winter, he put a scarf around his face. Therefore, Lazarus had cloth around his face, indicating that it was cold wintertime. All right. With the good dash of flour bag in his face, meaning his face looks white because it's so cold. All right. And a cigar in his mouth, you might have taken Jack Lazarus for a white devil. Now, why is he saying a white devil? Because the sun, when it's in the position, when it's in the winter solstice, the sun is now Satan the devil. When the sun is in the summer solstice, the sun is the Christ figure. Gary James says, are we physical manifestations of the Creator experiencing knowing itself? Because energy only transforms, it doesn't die. Yes, that's correct. Energy cannot be destroyed or created. It only changes forms. So yes, I would agree with you, Gary James. I would agree with you on that. I would agree with you. We are condensations of the Most High in a physical body. Condensations of the Most High in a physical body. So what would that mean? We are pure energy, pure intelligence, pure awareness, right? So what does that mean? That means all life form, they have the energy. They have the energy to live. They have the intelligence. In today's science, they call it DNA, to reproduce and to grow. It's all intelligent, right? It's all intelligent. Okay. So I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that. In fact, that's a good point. The reason why you can say that there's no such thing as evolution, why evolution is a fairy tale, is because it violates the second law of thermodynamics. All right. End of story. No need to discuss any science. Right? It violates the second law of thermodynamics. If y'all don't know what it is, Google it. Google it. If you don't know what it is, all right, there's no need to discuss any science or any statistics. It violates the second law of thermodynamics. Therefore, closed story. End of story. All right, next paragraph. And who then are those black ones, the scorpions? having stings in their tails. Now, remember, y'all, I believe he's going to get into the dragon, but let me see. I remember scorpions being in the book of Revelation. Well, it's been so long since I read that, I don't remember. But at one time, I used to read that. You know, I was very thorough with the book of Revelation. But that was years and years and years and years and years ago. All right, it continues here. And who then are those black ones, the scorpions, having stings in their tails, to whom it was given to hurt the earth for 5 months? But the allegorical genii is genius plural, y'all, of the scorpion of October. Okay, so there's a scorpion of October, January, and February, all under the influence of Ab-Ad-On. Okay, so remember, I think we looked at that several pages ago. The radicals in Abaddon is Ab-Ad-On, A-B-A-D-O-N. All right, the king of the bottomless pit, that's going to be Satan. That is, of that part of the earth's surface, which being turned from the sun, looks relatively downward toward the regions of infinite space, which literally and really is a bottomless pit. Boundless, bottomless, measureless, infinite. All right, so that would be talking about when the earth is divided into a hemisphere, right? The sun is going to be facing one hemisphere, that other hemisphere facing on the other side of the sun, right? It's darkness, a bottomless pit. Okay, that's what he's talking about. Because according to the author, space has no edges, it has no boundaries, so therefore it's a bottomless pit. All right, let's continue. And what are the 7 churches but the 7 remaining summer months? Answering most strictly and literally in their very names, and allegorical moral characters to their physical antitypes in the 7 summer signs of the zodiac. All right, so yeah, we're in Revelations dealing with the scorpions and now the 7 churches. Where are our Hebrew Israelites? Where are our Hebrew Israelites? Okay, let's get them in here. Let's get the Hebrew Israelites in here and get their point of view on these paragraphs having to do with Revelations. All right, so now let's continue. Next page. Let me make sure. Okay, so we are here on page 91, scholars. Page 91. All right. I ask no more of the Christian than that he should not deny the text of his own book. I ask no more rather of any man's credulity than that he should not be unwilling to admit that the 7 and 5 are 12. For so sure as they are so sure is this demonstration that the gospel is not history, but fiction, fairy tale, y'all. Not truth, but allegory. Not fact, but a fable. Okay, all right. Next paragraph. Let me see. Anybody have anything to say about that in the chat? Anybody want to make any comments on that? Whether you agree with the author here, or if not, if you don't agree, why not? Let me check the chat, see what's happening. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat, so I will continue. All right, so let's continue. These paragraphs are much more easy to read, right? The paragraphs that are difficult are the ones where they start this, where he's describing the constellations and the relationships to them. But these seem to be fairly easy to read. So I think we can cover a lot. All right, so let's continue. For look, ye sirs, if ever there were such a thing as allegory in the world, and the imaginative faculty in man could imagine the sun, that's the sun, to speak. So imagine that you can see the sun, sun, speaking. What language could be imagined for him, that is the sun, to speak, that's more characteristic than those words of the Christ in the revelation of St. John? Quote, I am he who holdeth the seven stars in his right hand, who walketh in the midst of the seven golden candlesticks. Okay, so what are these candlesticks? What do these candlesticks represent? All right, and also the seven stars. Next, egregious ravings and idiocy, in any meaning that your priest could give you of it, sublimely beautiful and rich of science and truth, when interpreted by the key which itself presents to us in those words, quote, the seven churches which are in Asia, the seven churches which are in Asia, end quote. That is most literally, see, he's looking at this from a linguistics point of view, right? A linguistics, non-religious point of view. That is most literally the seven holy congregations or constellations. Okay, so these seven churches are in fact seven congregations, or to be more precise, seven constellations. The seven churches, according to the author in Revelations, are actually seven constellations, which are in the land of fire. That is, in the sun's path, the sun. That is, in the sun's path, in the kingdom of heaven. That is the reign of the summer months. Y'all got that? The seven churches are nothing more than the seven constellations that you can see during the summer months. Let me read that again. I'm going to start from the top, y'all. Egregious raving and idiocy. I don't know how to pronounce this. Idiot. This is not a modern word, I'm sure. There's no R there. So how do you pronounce that one? Anyway, in any meaning that your priest could give you of it, sublimely beautiful and rich in science and truth, when interpreted by the key which itself presents to us in these words. So in other words, my impression of what the author is saying here is that the religious leaders, they don't give you a reasonable explanation of this verse, but the author is going to explain it scientifically. Okay, and that scientifically was based upon the information that we just read, right? The astrology, and then the literal meaning. Okay, so let's go ahead and read it literally. Okay, not through theology, but literally. It reads, here's the key. So he's saying the key is the etymology and linguistics, right? The literal interpretation, okay, with the astrology or astronomy. That's the key that he's talking about. Quote, the seven churches which are in Asia, that is most literally the seven holy congregations or constellations, which are in the land of fire. That would be Asia. That is in the sun's sun, in the sun's path, in the kingdom of heaven. That is the reign of the seven summer months. All right, the reign of the seven summer months. Ask your Moshe about this. See what he says. Ask your pastor. The seven stars, says the sacred text, are the angels of the seven churches. All right. And the seven candlesticks are the seven churches. So the candlesticks are the 7 churches. The 7 churches are the candlesticks, are the congregations. Most literally, it means the constellations, the 7 constellations. Everybody see that? So let's continue. What are the candlesticks but fixed lights? What are those fixed lights in the midst of which the sun, S-U-N, walketh? But those congregations or groups of fixed stars, through the midst of which lies the sun's, S-U-N, annual course in the zodiac. All right. Okay. Same story over and over and over and over again. Everybody sees this, okay? Next paragraph. And here they are in name, in character, in order. The church or constellation of Ephesus, of Thyatira, of Philadelphia, of Pergamos, of Sardis, of Smyrna, and of Laodicea. Number 1, the church of Ephesus. So what's going to follow? He's going to talk about each of the churches, okay? First, Ephesus, from this Greek word here, upon, it means upon, Jesus, the same as Jesus. The Gaulish name of the capital G-O-D, Mars, M-A-R-S, whence our English name for March. So Mars is March, okay? The deity Mars is the month of March, who is the Lord of hosts of the Old Testament. All right, how many people knew that? Okay, so this is a good research point. The deity Mars is March, and March is the capital L-O-R-D of host in the New Testament. I'm sorry, in the Old Testament. So somebody, if you want to research that and get back with me and update me, or put it in the comment section here. And the Lamb of Gad, G-A-D, that's in the New Testament. So Mars, the deity Mars, is the month of March. The month of March is the Lord of hosts of the Old Testament, and the Lamb of Gad, G-A-D, in the New Testament. All right, so now we've covered that church. Okay, to this church, that's Ephesus, Christ threatens that he will come and remove its candlestick out of its place. And by the well-known movement of the heavenly bodies called the procession of the equinoxes, this candlestick, which 388 years before our Christian era of time was the first of the churches, has been removed out of its place, and the equinoctial point, which was then in the first degree of Aries, is found at present to have left the second of the fishes. Okay, I have to do some research on this. I'm gonna try to find a video to show y'all. Oh, let me change the page. Sorry about that. Here we are. Let me change the page. I didn't know y'all couldn't see it. All right, I forgot to change the page. So I just read this paragraph. I'm going to try to find a video to show y'all what this means. I believe this is referring to retrograde. It appears to be that things are going backward. I want to try to find a video for y'all so y'all can see it. All right. So let's go to the second church. How long? Let me check the chat. How long have we been going? Okay, so we're about an hour in. All right. So we're about an hour in. So let's see. Anything in the chat? What do y'all think about what we are discussing so far? Is this interesting, boring? Y'all familiar with it? Where are we? Let's see, Gary James. All right. So ain't nothing happening in the chat. What's going on, y'all? All right, so 2, Thyatira, from the Greek word there, that is, I tread on frankincense. Frankincense being offered to the sun, that is the sun, when in the constellation of the bull of April. All right. So Thyatira, the bull of April, that's the constellation. Okay. And it's dealing with frankincense. All right. So the bull of April, famous for its patience, its labor, and its work in the business of agriculture. Okay. So the church of Thyatira, we associate that with the constellation of the bull of April, right? There's frankincense, okay? And there's what? Patience, there's work, okay? And the business is agriculture. That's how we'll remember that one. 3, the Church of Philadelphia is brotherly love. The unequivocal characteristic of 2 loving brothers, the twins of May. So that would be the Gemini. They love each other, brotherly love. So that's our memorization association right there. Brotherly love. What brothers? Gemini. All right. Philadelphia, brotherly love. May, Gemini, twins. Okay, so let me take a look at the comment. Gary James writes, the first 6 months are Roman. The last 6 months are Latin numbers. Okay, so let me go ahead and put this on the screen. All right. All right, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. So let's go back to it. So the great thing about being able to remember these churches, not that you need to memorize them cold, but just to have them in mind and the associations there. So next time we come across them, as we read, we have these associations and connections, right? Okay. It helps with understanding to be able to recall. All right, our 4th church, Pergamos, height, elevation, marriage of fire, the sun's, S-U-N, highest point of elevation in this constellation, which dwelleth where Satan's seat is. All right. So this constellation dwelleth where Satan's seat is. Okay. So the Hydra's head being, y'all should remember Hydra from last class, right? We looked at Hydra in the last video. If you're new, watch the video before this one and you'll see some images of Hydra. Okay. The Hydra's head being, as you see on the celestial globe, immediately under this church, which is Cancer, the crab of June, whose Hebrew name is Thomas. So the crab's Hebrew name is Thomas. Okay, so Cancer, the name of Cancer is Thomas, who in the gospel allegory was but a crabbed sort of fellow, and he had half a mind to go back again. And here, so I'm assuming they're talking about doubting Thomas, right? And here you see him in his position of the heavens, bearing physically the very character which he holds morally in allegory. So in other words, the moral character is not real life, wicked this and wicked that and evil this and evil that. It's allegorical. It has to do with the movement of the planets or their associations, right? That's what the author is talking about. It's not like somebody who's evil or wicked doing bad things, moral, it's not that. All right, so now let's continue. He comes to the zenith meridian. So I guess this is the sun, S-U-N. The sun comes to the zenith meridian at the very moment for looking down to see Jesus raise the soul of Lazarus. Y'all see that? All right, so here's the story. Okay, we're looking at allegory and astrology. Okay, astrology is telling the story of the movement taking place in the heavens. All right, so let me read that again. And here you see him in his position of the heavens, bearing physically the very character which he holds morally in allegory. He comes to the zenith meridian at the very moment for looking down to see Jesus raise the soul of Lazarus. Remember, Lazarus, come on out. But he was no favorite of Jesus, who tells him in the sacred text, thou hast in three, let me repeat that, but he was no favorite of Jesus, who tells him in the sacred text, quote, thou hast in thee those that hold the doctrine of Balaam, end of quote. And here, in the very midst of the constellation, Cancer is Balaam's ass, who has found his way to the very highest place in heaven, and, of course, brought the doctrine with him. But he has let the doctor tumble off his back, and he's gone to hell. Next paragraph. The fifth church is Sardis. That word, Sardis, formed of the ammonium primitives sar, the rock, stone or pillar, and dis, capital God, afterward passing into the Coptic or ancient Phoenician word El Eon. Y'all follow that? Okay, so we're dealing with etymology. El Eon is the sun, S-U-N, also called the being, B-E-I-N-G, the being, and naturalized into the Greek, Latin, French, and English word lion, Lion. That is the Lion of July, who, having been the lamb of the tribe of Gad, G-A-D, or capital G-O-D of March, appears here as the lion of the tribe of Judah or July, and here as the Sing avatar or the deity under the form of a man lion bursting from a pillar, exemplifying that frightful language ascribed to capital G-O-D in Hosea chapter 8. Looks like that's verse 1. I will read, let me repeat that. Hosea chapter 8, I believe it's verse 1. Quote, I will rend the caul of their heart, and there will I devour them like a lion. So now remember, scholars, the author was taken to court and put in jail for exposing these secret society secrets. I believe it was the Knights Templar and perhaps Freemasons. I don't know. Those are the secret societies whose names I know. So the author is giving us insight into these verses, who, according to him, based upon his inside knowledge, have astronomical references. All right. So now let me look in the chat again. Give me 1 second. See if we have anything in the chat. In the comment section. All right. Gary James says January and March equals Janus and Mars. Okay. All right. Thank you. July and August equals Julius Caesar and his successors. Excellent. Augustus Caesar. So let me repeat that. July and August is Julius Caesar and his successor, Augustus Caesar. All right. I think February is Norse in origin, possibly Thor's mother. All right. Excellent. Excellent comment. Excellent, y'all. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. So how much time? So we are All right, so we're about an hour and, oh, okay, only an hour and 15 minutes. All right, so we're good for time. We'll go for another 15 minutes. All right, and then that way the video will be 1 hour and 30 minutes. I think that's not too much for people to handle. But if you want to call in and talk, just put a 1 in the chat and I'll get my phone number to you. And you're more than welcome to call in if you want. All right, so here we are, the sixth church. The sixth church is Smyrna. That word signifying a bundle of myrrh. So now here's a memorization technique. Okay, so Smyrna, myrrh. The second church, Thyatira, frankincense. So there are two churches that are associated with incense, right? Thyatira, frankincense, and Smyrna, myrrh. Okay, so we can remember that Smyrna is associated with myrrh because we see myrrh in the word Smyrna, right? M-Y-R. Y'all see it? Myrrh is spelled M-Y-R-R-H, and Smyrna is spelled S-M-Y-R-N-A. So we see myrrh in the word Smyrna, right? So M-Y-R. So that's an easy way to remember this, okay? Real simple memorization technique. If you know what myrrh smells like, now you can associate the smell to Smyrna, right? And also the number 6 if you wanted to read the order. But anyway, let's get back to the reading. The sixth church is Smyrna, that word signifying a bundle of myrrh, the offering made to the sun. So myrrh was also an offering made to the sun, S-U-N, as was frankincense, right? Through history, frankincense was always offered to the sun, S-U-N. The offering made to the sun in the Virgin of August. Okay, so myrrh was given as an offering to the sun in August, okay, the Virgin of August, having reference to the fragrant poesy which she holds in her hand, and to the milk pail in the hand of Isis Amnia of Egypt, the Indian Isa, and the Grecian Ceres, exemplifying that amorous compliment in the song of the loves of the Christ and his church, quote, a bundle of myrrh is my beloved to me, end quote. All right, so that was quite a bit. Next paragraph. The seventh and the longest of the summer months, that is, of the Asiatic churches, is Laodicea. That word signifying, and here we see two Greek words, that word signifying, that is, or to add clarity, the just or righteous people living as you see in the scales of justice, Libra, the balance of September, when the weather is neither hot nor cold, but lukewarm, for which Christ, who, like Christians, had no notion of justice, threatens to spew it out of his mouth. Okay, so this is very interesting because in ancient Egypt, their scales were balanced. But in the US, the scales are unbalanced. So what is that telling us, y'all? In ancient Egypt, the scales were balanced, right? The scales were balanced. Note that the Gospels were originally written, conceived in ancient Egypt, right? The Coptic Egyptians, right? The scales were balanced. But with Constantinian Christianity and in the US court system, the Justice Department, right? The Supreme Court, they have scales and they're unbalanced. What is it telling us? The Coptic Egyptians, who were not worshiping a Christ figure, they were interested in doing right by people. Okay, justice. But the US Supreme Court obviously is not, because the scales are unbalanced. So correlate that with the black codes. Okay, correlate that with the black codes. Correlate that with the 14th Amendment, the 13th Amendment. No punishment. Slavery is illegal except for punishment of a crime. So they criminalize. The Moors who don't know they're Moors, and some of them do, right? If you're Genesis chapter 2, you don't know what I mean, go back and watch the videos on my YouTube channel. The Moors are the substance and subject matter of the law. So if you don't know this, you're going to have a problem, right? So there is intentionally no justice for you. Okay, there is no justice for you unless you know who you are. You return to the Most High and start to follow or live your life as your ancient foremothers and forefathers. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Honor your forefathers, right? What does that mean? They agreed to enter into a contract with the Most High. They put us in that contract, so we need to honor them by following the Most High's instructions, which is at its essence natural law. All right. So if you want to have justice in your life, return to the Most High, follow natural law. Okay. Follow natural law, return to the Most High, and that puts you in the power seat. If you want to know more about that, come to our live class on Saturday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so all of this information about us and our documents, they have relevancy in your everyday life, even with the legal system. Okay, even with the legal system, but you have to learn. Okay, and doing it on YouTube is not the place to do it. But I'm giving you some information and inviting you to come to Saturday 9 a.m. class. Okay, the link is in the description of this video. And also make sure you subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath. You need this basic education. Okay, so now let's get back to our reading. Let me see. Okay, so we are here where the highlight is. Oh, no, we're not. We are here. The 7th. All right. No, we read that. Okay. I kind of got off on a tangent. Let me read this again. All right, so we can get reoriented. The 7th and last of the summer months, that is, of the Asiatic churches. So the summer months are the Asiatic churches. There are 7. Each one is a different church. We read through each month or church already, okay? The 7th is Laodicea. The word signifying, we see the Greek word, that is the just or righteous people. The just or righteous people living, as you see, in the scales of justice. So these just, righteous people live in the scales of justice, Libra. Not at the scales of justice, in the scales of justice, Libra. If you know what that means, put it in the chat. If you know what it means to live in as opposed to living at, put it in the chat. Let's continue. They are living in the scales of justice, Libra, the balance of September, when the weather is neither hot nor cold, but lukewarm. See, It's not about how you feel, according to the author, about the doctrine or the Christ figure and the theologic and the doctrine of the church or whatever group you're in. Astronomically, lukewarm means just that. In September, it's neither hot nor cold. It's lukewarm, right? For which Christ, who like Christians, had no notion of justice. Christ, who like Christians, had no notion of justice. Okay, now he's talking about the book of Revelations, right? Notice what he says. Christ threatens to spew it out of his mouth. Why? Because it's neither hot nor cold. Y'all know the story from Revelation. Very, very interesting paragraph. Next paragraph. And these 7 churches, that is, holy congregations, that is, constellations that are in Asia, that is, in the land of fire. So Asia is the land of fire, are included within 2 covenants, that is, comings together, that is, the 2 equinoctial points when the sun, sun, twice a year in his oblique march to the ecliptic. That's a line. Y'all remember I showed y'all the celestial map? Go back and watch that video. You'll see what he's talking about. All right, so let me read it again. Twice a year in his ecliptic, in his oblique march in the ecliptic, comes to the line of the equator. This is the celestial equator, y'all. As he does in spring, about the 25th of March, and in autumn, about the 29th of September, called Michaelmas Day. So the 29th of September is called Michaelmas Day. And these 2 covenants are respectively the covenant of works and the covenant of grace, because spring is the season for labor in cultivating the earth. Okay, so in spring, people are planting, right? Preparing the ground. Okay, because spring is the season for labor in cultivating the earth, and autumn is the season for gathering in and enjoying the fruits of your labor. So autumn is the harvest. Okay, spring you plant. Let me see what time is it? It's about 8 o'clock. Give me 1 second, y'all. I think we can go for, let's see. Let me check the chat. Give me 1 second, y'all. Let's see. Gary James says fairness. Gary, fairness about what? I'm not following. I'm a probably very typical man. I can really only do one thing at a time. Otherwise, I get confused, or I'm gonna do one thing well and not the other. So that's my limitation. So fairness about what, please? Let me know, and you can put it in the chat, and then we can get into it. Let's see the one. All right, so I guess we can wrap it up here, y'all. We won't finish this tonight, even if I kept going, because we got about 2.5 pages before we get to the next chapter. The next chapter I like what we're going to cover in the next chapter. That's going to be real fun. All right, so let's close it out here, and share the video, like the video if you haven't already. Tell somebody else about it, talk about it, and let's get the word out, and let's try to get more people in. Okay, Let's try to get more people in so that we can help them. And in helping them, we help ourselves. And we'll enjoy these videos that much more. So remember to subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course. This is a streaming course. Reclaim your heritage. If you don't want it, a whole lot of other people do want it, and they've tried to hide it from you, but we have brought it back to you. So don't sit on the fence about this. Reclaim it. It's affordable. It's basically free. All right, y'all. So let's make it do what it do. Oh, scales of justice. Oh, yes, Gary. Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Scales of justice. I agree with you. I agree with you. Scales of justice. I've always thought that was very interesting, right? That in ancient Egypt, the scales are balanced, but in the U.S., they're unbalanced. That says a whole lot, because for me, I'm seeing dark priesthood, secret societies, right? Onum sanctum, okay? Onum sanctum, doctrine of discovery, right? I'm seeing all of that in this, okay? And it's very interesting that it has an astronomical origin, okay? That was perverted by the hybrid colonists, conquerors, right? They perverted that, but they don't lie about it either, because they're telling you that the scales are unbalanced. So we're looking at what? Denationalization, right? We're looking at denationalization, demonetization of silver and gold, because that's constitutional money, right? Removing the substance, right, from the Constitution. You're looking at 14th Amendment, right? Looking at again the Black Codes, Jim Crow, everything that they did in the 1950s to bring in, all the tricks that they played to prevent those soldiers who came back from being able to get loans to go to school or buy a house. But they should not have had to do that anyway, right? But they were not in their proper person. Okay, so they were put in that situation, but they still, the agreement was not kept with them. So it's just one injustice after another. That's not even to speak of what they did to our people regarding the land, what they did in retaliation for the Black Power movement, the public policies, the family court, traffic court. I mean, all of these things, right? These illegal venues that they're calling courts, okay, that have no delegation of authority, so on. It's just completely unfair. There's no justice, right, when it comes to us. But there is a way for us to get justice, and that is to return to the Most High. And when we do that, we're honoring our ancient foremothers and forefathers. So we're reclaiming our status, but we also need to reclaim our language. We need to reclaim our language, which is Ibaryath. So y'all go and subscribe. So this is going to conclude today's presentation. If anybody wants to come on and assist me with reading, or call in, or anything like that, you are welcome to do so. My email address is yasapa@zionlawschool.org. YASAPA@zionlawschool.org. Give me an email. Let me know that you want to come in and read. I'll send you the link. And you can participate if you like. That's totally fine with me. All right. So I'm going to say shalom, y'all, and I will see y'all tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.